Alright, so we're checking out the HX115SE. This is the 2023 edition. I don't believe I ever reviewed the 2021 version of this. For whatever reason, I don't know if I missed it, or I guess I just didn't request it or whatever. This is a 3-inch toothpick. It runs on 2S, and yeah, obviously the whole toothpick craze is kind of come and gone, in my opinion. Hasn't been a lot of toothpick models recently, but BETAFPV did decide to go ahead and do a refresh on this one. So now, I'll put a little chart up here on all the differences. Basically, in a nutshell, the only thing that's the same is the carbon fiber plate that holds it together, but pretty much everything else has changed. Well, the props are the same. I think the same HQ3020 props, but I think everything else is different now. Because they've gone from a 1S setup to a 2S setup now, so the motor's different. 1102, now it's 1103, different kV. A 1S board before, now we have a 1 and 2S board. You know, they've updated all the electronic components to their latest and greatest parts. I think the flight controller on here is an F411, has a built-in Express LRS receiver. You can get a FreeSky version as well if you want. 12 amp ESCs on this one here with BlueJay firmware with 48 kilohertz. So this is actually intended for really efficient flights and cruising around, not necessarily for peak performance. And of course, they got their newest micro canopy on here with their CO3 and MO3 video transmitter. So basically updated with all their newest parts for 2022, 2023. But at the end of the day, it's still 2S, even though it's a 3-inch toothpick. And everyone knows, and I'm sure there's going to be raging comments down below, that should be 3S. You know, the typical 3-inch toothpick, you know, at the height of the craze was, I think, a 1303 motor with around 5,000 kV on a 3S setup. And that was optimal for a little, balance of performance plus flight time. Whereas this one here is optimized for flight time. You can do acro tricks on this, of course, flippy floppies and power loops and all that kind of stuff, but it isn't going to be nearly as exciting as the 3S setup, of course. So just a quick overview of what comes in the box. You get the drone, of course, and one set of props. You get a second set of props. They do include one 450 milliamp hour 2S LiPo with an XT30, and of course you get an XT30 on this one as well. And then you get the USB cable. So there's a USB-C port here, and this plugs into the connector on the board, flight controller board, which is right there. So that's kind of what they're doing on their latest flight controllers. And then you got these little decorative plastic pieces that go on top here. It does add a little bit of extra weight. The battery is held in with this 3D printed TPU part. I guess they printed it flat like this, and then you can just pull it up like so and stick in the battery that way. They are advertising up to a 12-minute flight on this 452S, and that sounds about right. I think more realistically it's going to be closer to 9 minutes or 10 minutes based on most people's flying behavior. I think when they tested this on 12-minute flight, they pretty much ran the battery all the way to dead and not really doing any kind of acro tricks, just going as slowly as possible and under ideal conditions with no wind. So you, in theory, could get as much as that, but it's going to be more like 9 to 10 minutes, I believe, on this particular battery. If you want a little bit more acro performance, I recommend going to this 2S300. I'll link this down in the video description. This also fits into the tray here, but it makes it a little bit lighter. I'll show you the weight differences here, and you do get it's a little bit more punchy because, it's at the end of the day, it's still 2S, so you're going to get a much shorter flight, of course, on this 300. I get roughly, if I'm pushing it, about 3 minutes of flight time in this one. Which is still pretty decent, but you're going to be able to, it's going to be much more responsive, and if you want a little bit more performance, go with a smaller battery, of course at the expense of flight time. Alright, so here's the weight of just the drone, 40.2 grams, and then we'll throw on the 2S450. Now we're at 68.6 grams, and then if you want to go with the 2S300 instead, that is coming in at 61.7 grams. Okay, so who is this going to be for? I think that obviously for a lot of you more experienced pilots flying a lot of big stuff, unless you're specifically looking for a 10-minute flight on something like this, probably not for you. I think this one here is going to be a really good upgrade for someone that has come from the BETAFPV's Ready to Fly kits, the Cetus series, and specifically the Cetus X, because that comes, so if you get the Express LRS version here, like the one I've got here, that's going to be a really good upgrade for you, because that Cetus X comes with goggles. Of course, this is analog, and comes with an Express LRS transmitter, which will bind to this drone no problem. And so if you sort of master the Cetus X, you want something with a little bit more performance and a little bit more flight time, and you don't necessarily need or want the prop guards, this is probably going to be your next drone that you're going to be able to still be able to use the goggles and transmitter, and it's going to be kind of a next step up from the Cetus X Whoop. So if you want to, do a little bit more outdoor flying, this one is probably a pretty good next step, because you can just bind it to the stuff you've got already. Now, I think the only thing that you're going to need to get is a battery charger, because the Cetus X is using two 1S batteries. This is a single 2S battery, and so you'll need a battery charger for this XT30 connector. So I will link a video to a small and affordable battery charger that will work with this 2S LiPo. They're not that expensive, and then I'll actually link the video to that one as well, so you can check that out. And this will be a nice little upgrade for your Cetus X kit if you want to move up to something a little bit more spunky compared to the Cetus X. I think this is going to be perfect for you. Anyway, that's going to do it for this video. Links to everything down in the video description. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate that. And if you like more videos like this, please consider subscribing. That would really help out the channel. That'll do it for this video. Talk to you guys in the next one.